cannot arrest me! I am the president! You shut your mouth! You were a part of it too! Every porch became a witness stand!
I yelled at her. You have crossed the line, Linda. Take one more step and you will regret it. Her face twisted like she had been waiting for me to say it. Reginald Carter, you think you are special because of that job of yours? Not here. Here, the HOA decides who belongs. That was how my Saturday started. No coffee, no peace. Just the president of the Homeowners Association standing at the end of my driveway with two men dressed like they raided a yard sale for SWAT gear. The sun had not even burned off the morning haze, and already my street felt less like Texas suburbia and more like a live courtroom. The two men flanked her, arms folded, patches reading community enforcement sewn across cheap black vests. One had a shaved head and mirrored sunglasses. The other had a beard thick enough to hide behind. Their boots did not match. Their posture screamed amateur, and yet they stood like they owned the place. The taller one spoke first. Mr. Carter, we are here on behalf of the HOA. You are being detained for repeated violations of neighborhood standards. I blinked. Detained? I repeated, half laughing. That is a bold word for 3 people trespassing on my property. Linda's voice sharpened. You ignored every notice, every warning. This is what happens when residents think they are above the rules. I dropped the trash bag I was holding. It split at the seam, a soda can rolling onto the pavement with a hollow metallic rattle. The sound cut through the morning air like a trigger pull. You want to talk about rules, Linda? I said, stepping forward. Then, let us talk about law. From across the street, a curtain shifted. Then, another. Neighbors were watching. Phones already out. You could feel the air thicken, the kind of silence that hums right before a thunderstorm. I looked from the fake cops to Linda and saw the tremor behind her defiance. She was not used to being challenged in public. Not by me. Not by anyone. The tall one adjusted his vest and squared his shoulders like a soldier rehearsing for a role he did not understand. You can make this easy or hard, sir. We will wait for police backup. I smirked. Backup? That is cute. Tell me, did you two pick up those vests from a Halloween clearance bin, or does the HOA have a new budget for cosplay? The bearded one flinched, trying to hide the twitch in his jaw. Linda stepped in front of them, folding her arms. Enough, Reginald. You have disrespected this community long enough. Authorized? I echoed, laughing once, short and sharp. There is no such thing as community enforcement, Linda. You made that up. Her cheeks reddened. You think this neighborhood is yours? You think being law enforcement somewhere else makes you untouchable here? I did not answer. I just met her eyes and let silence do the work. The kind that makes bullies second-guess their own script. The taller man took a step closer, boots crunching against my driveway. Sir, step back. You are resisting compliance. Compliance? I said softly, leaning in just enough that he could hear the calm under my words. You are on my property, without jurisdiction, without a warrant, and without the faintest idea how deep a hole you are digging. You have 30 seconds to back up before this becomes something you cannot walk away from. He hesitated, but Linda, ever the performer, barked, You do not scare us, Reginald. You have embarrassed this community for the last time. Either cooperate or face the consequences. The only consequence coming, I said, is when real cops show up and ask why 3 civilians are impersonating law enforcement. That stopped her for a heartbeat. Then, pride kicked back in. I called them because people are tired of your arrogance. People like you? I asked quietly. Careful how you finish that sentence. From a few houses down, someone whispered loud enough for the street to hear, What is she doing with fake cops? Another phone lifted. Another window opened. The whole cul-de-sac was watching, their curiosity mixing with unease. I could see the cracks forming in the little theater she had built. Her voice trembled under the weight of her own act. You cannot just do whatever you want. This neighborhood has order. Order? I said. No, Linda. This is chaos dressed in polyester. The bearded man tried to mediate, his tone wavering. Look, sir, maybe we just clear this up when the officers get here, all right? No need to make it worse. Too late, I said, motioning toward the cameras in every window. You already made it worse. He swallowed hard. The tall one, though, doubled down, raising his chin. You are being non-compliant. That means we can escalate. Escalate? I repeated, voice low. Son, I have dealt with cartel enforcers who were more disciplined than you. Do yourself a favor. Put your hands where I can see them and take a walk before you make the dumbest decision of your life. The words hung between us, heavy as lead. The man's fingers twitched near his belt, but something in my tone froze him. He saw what I wanted him to see. Not anger, but control. The kind of calm that unnerves reckless men. Linda, desperate to regain her footing, snapped. You do not belong here, Reginald. Not with your attitude. Not with your background. There it was, the crack behind the smile. The line she was not supposed to say. I stepped closer, the distance between us closing to a single breath. Say it, Linda. Say what you really mean. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. The crowd was dead silent now, phone steady, recording every heartbeat. Then the taller imposter moved again, his voice tight. This is your last warning. Then take it, I said. He blinked. What? Take your warning and leave before it becomes evidence. The bearded man finally broke character. Eddie, man, this is not worth it, he muttered. But Eddie, the one with the shaved head, ignored him. His pride was louder than his instincts. That was when the tension truly snapped. Not in a shout or a fight, but in realization. Because the neighborhood had stopped being her audience, it had become my witness. Linda's voice quavered. You cannot just ignore the rules. Linda, I said quietly, you keep mistaking control for leadership. They are not the same thing. One inspires people, the other cages them. And you have built a fence around fear. From across the street, an older man's voice cut through. Leave him alone, Linda. You have gone too far this time. She turned, startled. The crowd was not hers anymore. They were shifting, physically and morally, to my side of the driveway. I could feel it. The tide had turned. I leaned slightly toward Eddie and Sean, lowering my voice so only they could hear. Listen carefully. You are not the law. You are two men in fake vests following a woman who does not know what the word authority means. Walk away now before the real police treat you like what you are pretending to be. Sean's throat bobbed, his confidence unraveling. But Eddie just glared back, his jaw tight, sweat beading at his temples. You think you can talk your way out of this? He spat. No, I said. I can prove my way out. He did not understand what I meant. Not yet. Linda jabbed a finger toward me. Do not listen to him! He is manipulating you. He thinks he can twist everything because of his connections. I smiled faintly. You are right, Linda. I do have connections. But they are spelled FBI. Her face drained of color, but before she could answer, a voice shouted from behind a parked car. Marcus, the teenager who lived 2 houses down. Yo, Mr. Carter! I got you on live! Thousands watching! The effect was instant. Eddie turned furious. Put that phone down, kid! He took a step toward Marcus. That is when instinct took over. I shifted, stepping between them, my stance square, voice cutting cold. You even think about touching that boy, and this ends right here. The look in my eyes told him I was not bluffing. The crowd gasped. Cameras lifted higher. For the first time, the imposter saw it, the difference between a man pretending to have power and a man who actually did. Linda's composure cracked, her voice rising but shaking. Everyone calm down. This is a neighborhood matter. A woman from her porch yelled back, Neighborhood matter? Looks like harassment to me. Others joined. The chorus swelled. This is wrong. Where did you find these guys? You cannot arrest your neighbor. Every voice that rose was another nail in Linda's coffin. I did not have to do anything. The truth was dismantling her. one neighbor at a time. I took a slow breath, letting the chaos spiral just enough to expose her illusion. Then I spoke, calm and measured, but loud enough for everyone to hear. This is not order, Linda. This is chaos, and you created it. She tried to fight back, but her words had lost their weight. You twisted this, Reginald. You have always been the problem. No, I said simply. The problem is that you think control is leadership. And leadership does not need armor, the crowd murmured again, louder now. The bearded man, Sean, shifted back toward the sidewalk, voice low. Maybe he is right, Eddie. We should just go. But Eddie's pride was a trap he could not escape. No, we finished this. He reached into his vest. Metal clanked. The sound of handcuffs scraping together made the crowd collectively inhale. Do not, I warned. He ignored it, pulling them free, holding them up like a trophy. You are under neighborhood arrest, he said, voice trembling. The air went electric. Phones zoomed in. Someone screamed, "Call the cops!" I stared at him, steady. If you take one more step with those cuffs, you are committing a felony. Impersonating an officer. Attempted unlawful restraint. That is not a fine, Eddie. That is prison time. He froze. Sean whispered, He is right, man. We are dead if we keep this up. Shut up, Eddie hissed. Linda, desperate, shouted, Do it! Do not let him win! Put him in cuffs! That was it. The crowd turned fully. You are insane, Linda, someone yelled. You have lost it. I took a step forward, not aggressive, measured. Everyone here sees what is happening. This is not about grass length or fences. It is about power, fake power, and fear masquerading as order. Sean looked down. I did not sign up for this, he muttered. Eddie's knuckles whitened on the cuffs, torn between fear and ego. I locked eyes with him. You lay a hand on me, and I promise you, by the time the real police show up, you will wish this was just an HOA fine. His hand trembled. His pride broke. The cuffs clattered to the ground. Linda screamed, Pick them up! Do not let him win! No one moved. The crowd was silent except for the hum of distant sirens starting to echo from somewhere beyond the cul-de-sac. I straightened my back, looking down at the cuffs gleaming in the sunlight. This, I said, is what happens when you confuse control with justice. And as I spoke, I could feel the neighborhood's pulse shift, not in fear this time, but awakening. The storm had only just begun. The first wail of a siren drifted through the Texas air, faint but unmistakable. It was the sound of reality coming for them. Eddie froze mid-step, the cuffs still glinting near his boots. Sean took another slow step back, palms out, muttering under his breath, Man, we need to go. Now. But Linda was not ready to surrender her delusion. Do not you move, she barked. Pointing at them like a general losing a battle she refused to admit was lost. You stand your ground! He does not control this neighborhood! I do! Her voice cracked halfway through, but the cameras did not care. Every neighbor within earshot was filming. Every porch became a witness stand. I could see the reflections of flashing red and blue lights creeping closer down the street, bouncing off windows and car mirrors. I folded my arms and looked at her calmly. You just said that in front of 30 witnesses and 10 cameras, Linda. You sure you want to double down? She glared at me, chest heaving. I built this community. You think you can humiliate me in front of my own people? No, I said evenly. You are doing a fine job of that yourself. Eddie shifted again, sweat trickling down his temple. He looked back at Linda, searching for orders like a lost dog. Ma'am, I do not know what we are doing anymore. What you are doing, I said, cutting in, is committing crimes you do not even understand. You think you are playing security? You are about 30 seconds from being processed for impersonation, assault, and unlawful restraint. Sean swallowed hard. He is right, he whispered. This is over. Linda whirled on him, fury distorting her face. You shut your mouth! You think I will take the fall for this? You were part of it too! The crowd gasped, her mask slipping entirely. Neighbors murmured, their whispers turning to open disgust. Someone shouted, "She is lost it!" Another voice echoed, "That is not leadership, it is bullying." Eddie turned, voice desperate. "We can still fix this." "No, you cannot," I interrupted. "You cannot fix stupid, and you cannot undo a felony just because you regret it." The sirens were louder now, reverberating through the cul-de-sac. Marcus, the teenager from before, was still streaming live, his phone pointed squarely at the standoff. "We are still live!" he called out, grinning nervously. "Yo, Mr. Carter, the whole internet is watching." Linda's eyes widened. "You put this online?" she shrieked. "It is not his fault," I said calmly. "You wanted an audience, Linda. Now you have got one, worldwide." Eddie looked ready to crack. "Please," he muttered. "I just wanted to make some extra cash." She said it was legal. Sean nodded frantically. She said we would be like community safety officers, that we would just scare him a bit. "Scare me?" I repeated. "You tried to arrest a federal agent on his own property. That is not a scare tactic. That is suicide by stupidity." Linda clutched her head, mumbling, "No, no, this is not how it is supposed to go." Her composure disintegrated under the weight of her own mess. That is when Eddie finally snapped, not from anger, but from panic. "I am not going to jail for this!" he shouted, and before I could react, he lunged, not at me, but toward Marcus. The crowd screamed. I moved fast, instinct overriding thought. One hand grabbed Eddie's arm mid-swing, twisting it down until the handcuffs hit the pavement with a metallic clang. My other arm pressed him back against his own momentum, holding him in place without a single strike. "Stay down," I ordered. My tone was not loud, but it carried command. The kind of authority you did not argue with. Marcus stumbled back, trembling. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded quickly, eyes wide. "Go inside, kid. Lock your door." The neighbors were murmuring now, voices blending into a storm of shock and disbelief. He has got training. Did you see that? He did not even break a sweat. Eddie's breath came in ragged bursts. "You broke my arm!" I glanced down. "You are lucky I did not break your pride instead." He struggled, but it was over. The cuffs lay inches from his face, glinting under the hot sun like karma manifest. Linda's shrill voice cut through the noise. "You cannot touch him! You are not the law here!" I turned toward her, slow and deliberate. "You keep saying that like it means something." Her lips parted, but no words came. The crowd started closing in, not physically, but morally. The shift was palpable. The same neighbors who once obeyed her every command were now shaking their heads. Mrs. Henderson from across the street folded her arms. "You are finished, Linda." Even Sean looked sick. "I told you this was a bad idea," he muttered. "I did not sign up to get arrested." The air was heavy with judgment. I crouched down beside Eddie, keeping my voice low. "You know what separates you from a real officer, Eddie? Real cops answer to the law. Fake ones answer to their ego. And ego," I tapped the fallen cuffs with my finger, "gets you locked up faster than any suspect I have ever met." He went still, eyes flickering with a mix of fear and recognition. Then, in the distance, the sirens turned into visible flashes, 2 patrol cars rolling around the corner. The crowd shifted again, whispers rippling like wind through dry grass. I straightened, brushing dust off my hands. "Game is over," I said quietly. "Let us see how you handle the real thing." Linda spun toward the incoming lights, panic blooming across her face. "No, no. They will listen to me. I will explain everything." "Sure," I said. "Tell them how your personal militia tried to arrest your neighbor over a driveway." The patrol cars screeched to a stop, doors flinging open. 2 officers stepped out, one older, heavyset, and wary, the other younger with sharp eyes, scanning the scene. "Hands! Where we can see them!" The older one barked. Eddie immediately raised his trembling arms. Sean followed, muttering something about not wanting trouble. I did the same, slowly, one hand up, the other still near my badge. "Officers," I said clearly, "Special Agent Reginald Carter, FBI. Identification is in my pocket. These two men attempted to impersonate law enforcement and detain me on my property." The older officer froze mid-step. "FBI?" "Yes, sir," I said, pulling my badge and ID in one smooth motion. "Everything is on video." He took the wallet, examined it carefully, then handed it back, expression shifting from suspicion to relief. "Jesus, you handled this without backup?" I shrugged, did not have time to call it in. Linda tried to interrupt, waving her arms. "He is lying! This man is dangerous! I was just enforcing community regulations!" The younger officer turned to her, unimpressed. "Ma'am, you brought in unlicensed personnel pretending to be law enforcement?" "They were assisting me," she cried. "They were enforcing HOA policy." The crowd erupted in laughter, short, incredulous bursts. Even the officer could not hide his disbelief. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "that is not how enforcement works." Eddie tried to speak. She told us it was legal, said she had authority from the board. Authority from a homeowners association does not cover impersonating officers, I added. Might want to remember that. The older cop nodded slowly. "All right, let us separate everyone. Get statements." The neighborhood had turned into a live courtroom. People whispered from porches, recording the whole process. Linda was still shouting, red-faced, "This is harassment! I will sue you all!" The officer sighed, muttering, "Yeah, that is not how this ends." He motioned for another unit. They moved to cuff Eddie, and this time, no one stopped them. The sound of the real handcuffs clicking shut was strangely poetic. Sean just stood there, hands raised, tears forming in the corners of his eyes. "I am sorry," he whispered, not sure who he was saying it to. Maybe to me, maybe to himself. Linda tried one last time to spin the story. "You cannot arrest me! I am the president of this HOA!" I looked at her, almost pitying. And Nixon was the president too. That did not make him innocent. The crowd snickered. She flinched like the truth physically hit her. The officers guided Eddie toward the patrol car. I heard him mumble something, maybe a prayer, maybe a curse. Sean sat on the curb, head in his hands. Linda's voice cracked one final time. "You think you have won, Reginald? You think you can just come into my neighborhood and it is our neighborhood?" I corrected quietly. "You just forgot that." The younger officer approached me. "Agent Carter, we will take it from here. You have done enough." "Trust me," I said. "I was hoping it would not get this far." He nodded, genuine respect in his eyes. "You handled yourself better than most." The older officer turned back toward Linda, voice flat. "Ma'am, we are going to need you to come with us and give a statement downtown. You can do it voluntarily, or we can make it official." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then she whispered, "You cannot do this." "Actually, ma'am," he said dryly, "we can." They led her toward the second cruiser. The crowd applauded. Not wildly, but in a quiet, unanimous rhythm of relief. As the sirens faded into the distance, I looked around the street. The same cul-de-sac that used to be ruled by HOA memos and petty fines now buzzed with something else. Freedom. Marcus walked up, still holding his phone, grin wide. "Mr. Carter, that was insane. The live is blowing up, 500,000 views already." I gave a tired smile. "Make sure you tag it correctly, son." "Justice in real time," he laughed. "You are a legend, man." "Let us hope not," I said. Legends usually mean things went wrong before they went right. The Hendersons crossed the street. Mrs. Henderson patted my arm gently. "You handled that better than anyone could have. Just doing my job, ma'am," I said softly. And yet, as the last police car turned the corner, I could not shake the thought that the real fallout had not even started. Because authority does not die quietly, it drags its ghosts with it. And by morning, every house on this street would wake up asking the same question. How did it come to this? When the last cruiser disappeared around the corner, the street fell into the kind of silence that only comes after chaos. The air still smelled like asphalt and adrenaline. A few neighbors lingered, hesitant to go back inside, whispering in small groups like jurors after a verdict. I stood in my driveway, arms crossed, eyes following the trail of flashing lights until they faded completely. For a long time, nobody said anything. The echo of Linda's voice still clung to the walls of the houses, sharp, brittle, and broken. Mrs. Henderson was the first to speak. "You all right, Reginald?" "I am fine," I said, though my pulse was still running like I had just finished a marathon. Could have gone worse. Her husband gave a low whistle. Worse? "Son, I have not seen a neighborhood wake up like that in 20 years. He was not wrong. It was as if the whole street had been cracked open, light pouring into places that had stayed dark for too long. People had been afraid of Linda, afraid of fines, memos, retaliation. But fear does not hold when truth stands up in the middle of the road and stares back. Across the street, Marcus was still clutching his phone, streaming to whoever was still watching. He caught my eye and mouthed, "You are trending." I shook my head, half amused, half exhausted. "Turn it off, kid. The show is over." He laughed nervously. "Not for the internet, it is not." By the time I went inside, the adrenaline was wearing off. My wife, Dana, met me at the door, her eyes wide. "I saw everything," she said. "Half the neighborhood's feed was live." "Reginald, you could have been shot." "Not by them," I said quietly, kicking off my shoes. "They did not even know how to hold a stance. They were scared." "That is what scares me," she murmured. "Scared people make the worst decisions." I did not argue. She was right. But part of me was still running on instinct, the part that had spent years in the bureau, reading body language, sensing escalation before it happened. I sat at the kitchen table, replaying the confrontation in my head frame by frame, every movement, every word. I could still hear the metallic clink of those fake cuffs hitting concrete, like punctuation in a story I had not meant to tell. Dana placed a cup of coffee in front of me. "They will call you. The bureau, I mean." I nodded. "They will want a report." But this was not official business. I was off duty. She raised an eyebrow. "Does not mean it will not go official once the footage hits the news." She was right again. By midnight, my phone was already buzzing. Texts, missed calls, voicemails, friends from work, local reporters, even a few neighbors who suddenly wanted to thank me for my service. I did not answer any of them. I just scrolled until the headlines appeared. FBI agent detains fake HOA police in dramatic neighborhood standoff. The video had gone viral, 500,000 views and counting. My name was already out there. The comments section was chaos. That HOA lady got what she deserved. Dude stayed calm under pressure. Total pro. I am moving out of any neighborhood with an HOA. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt exposed. Because viral fame does not feel like victory, it feels like surveillance. The next morning, the street buzzed with an uneasy kind of energy. People waved from porches who had never so much as said hello before. Some offered handshakes. Some just stared, trying to reconcile the quiet guy who mowed his lawn on Saturdays with the man who had disarmed a fake cop in under 3 seconds. "Morning, Agent Carter," someone called out. I cringed inwardly. "Reginald is fine," I said, but the title stuck. By noon, a local news van was parked by the curb. The reporter, young, polished, camera ready, approached with a practiced smile. Agent Carter, Channel 8 News. "Could we get a statement about what happened yesterday?" I sighed. "It is all in the police report. I am not giving interviews." "Off the record, then?" she pressed. "Off the record still counts," I said. She smiled wider, sensing the refusal was firm but polite. "Fair enough. Just know, people are calling you a hero." I looked past her to the street where the fake cops had stood, the sunlight bouncing off the faint scuff marks they had left behind. "Heroes do not get lucky," I said. "They get tested. Yesterday was a test I did not ask for." She did not know how to respond. Cameras caught the line anyway. It was on the evening news before sunset. That night, the HOA board sent out a statement, carefully worded, sterile. The association is aware of recent events involving former President Linda Whitfield. The board is cooperating fully with authorities and will appoint interim leadership shortly. Former President. That part hit the hardest. For years, she had ruled the neighborhood with intimidation disguised as order. Now her name was a cautionary tale. I was not proud of what happened, but I was not sorry either. The next few days felt surreal. Every time I walked to my mailbox, someone stopped to thank me. "You saved this neighborhood," one woman said. She had us terrified. I smiled politely, but the praise sat heavy. Saving people is not supposed to feel like winning. It is supposed to feel like peace. On Wednesday, I ran into Sean outside the police station. He was sitting on the steps, smoking a cigarette, eyes hollow. He looked smaller without the vest, just a man who had made a bad choice for the wrong reasons. "Sean," I said. He startled. "Agent? Reginald?" "Right. Look, I did not mean for any of that to happen." "I know," I said. "Linda played you." He exhaled, smoke trembling in the air. "She said it was community work. Said we would just keep people in line." "I thought it was legal, man." "People who want control will always find someone to enforce it," I said. "Do not be that guy again." He nodded slowly. "I will not." As I turned to leave, he called out, "They dropped some charges." Said I, cooperated. "Guess it pays to tell the truth, huh?" "Always does," I said. Eventually. By Friday, Linda's mugshot was plastered across every local outlet. The story had legs now. National morning shows picked it up with dramatic music and slow-motion clips from Marcus's livestream. An HOA president facing multiple charges after a viral confrontation with an FBI agent, the anchor announced, her tone teetering between shock and entertainment. Dana muted the TV. "They make it sound like a movie." "It will fade," I said. "News cycles move fast." She gave me a look. "You underestimate people's hunger for drama." She was not wrong. My inbox was flooded. Journalists, talk shows, podcasts, wanting the inside story. Even the Bureau's PR department called, politely reminding me to avoid interviews to maintain professional boundaries. I did not need reminding. The story was not about me. It was about what happens when fake authority meets the real thing. That weekend, the HOA held an emergency meeting. I did not plan to attend, but curiosity won. The community center was packed, neighbors filling folding chairs, murmuring like a congregation before confession. Harold Jennings, a soft-spoken accountant with tired eyes, stood at the podium. "Effective immediately," he said. "Linda Whitfield has been removed from her position as president. The board is restructuring. Moving forward, we will focus on transparency and respect." Polite applause followed, but when I stood to leave, people turned, clapping louder. Someone shouted, "Speech!" I shook my head. Not today. But Harold gestured. "Go on, Reginald. Say something." I sighed, stepped forward, and faced the crowd. "You all saw what happens when fear leads," I said simply. "Authority does not come from titles or uniforms. It comes from integrity. If we want this neighborhood to mean something, it starts with respect, not rules." The room went quiet, then erupted into steady applause. Not loud, not wild, but real. As I walked home, the sunset painted the houses gold, the same houses that had felt divided just a week ago. For the first time, the street looked peaceful. Kids were playing again. Neighbors were talking across lawns instead of whispering through blinds. Dana met me at the door, smiling softly. "Feels different, does it not?" "Yeah," I said. "Feels lighter." Later that night, I sat alone on the porch, listening to the hum of sprinklers and the distant laughter of kids catching fireflies. My phone buzzed again, another message from a stranger online. "You are an inspiration, Agent Carter." I stared at it for a long time before replying. No, just a man who got tired of pretending silence was peace. The screen dimmed, and the night settled in. Because the truth was, this was not just about one HOA, one woman or one confrontation. It was about what happens when good people stop letting fear define them. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The video might fade from trending lists, the headlines might cool, but the question it raised was not going anywhere. Who decides what justice looks like when authority is fake? The next storm, I suspected, would not come with sirens. It would come quietly, in conversations, in meetings, in the way neighbors looked at power from now on. That is the real reckoning, and it was already on its way. By Monday morning, the story was not just local news anymore, it was national. Every outlet from Dallas to Washington had replayed the same 30 seconds. The fake cops' cuffs hitting my driveway, my badge flashing in the sun, Linda's voice cracking when she realized who I was. They slowed it down, looped it, added dramatic music. The internet had turned my street into a stage, and my face into a headline. FBI agent exposes fake HOA police in viral showdown. Texas neighborhood learns a lesson in real authority. They made it sound like a feel-good story, justice served with a side of irony. But it did not feel good. It felt invasive. Dana was at the kitchen counter scrolling through her tablet. "You have gone full meme," she said, half laughing, half uneasy. Someone edited the video with heroic music and captions. "You are the internet's new favorite fed." I poured my coffee, shaking my head. That is the problem. They made a punchline out of something that could have gone very wrong. She looked up. "You are not angry?" "I am conflicted," I said. We stopped a lie. But somehow, the truth turned into entertainment. Outside, reporters had already started circling the block like vultures. Vans with satellite dishes parked at the end of the cul-de-sac. One of them even tried knocking on my door. I did not answer. By noon, the bureau called. My supervisor, Alan Reyes, had that tone in his voice, the one that tried to sound calm but carried warning underneath. "Reginald, I assume you have seen the coverage?" "Hard to miss it," I said. "Yeah, well, you are trending. Headquarters is not thrilled about agents becoming internet celebrities. PR wants you to stay quiet. No interviews, no statements, no social posts." Noted. He paused. "Off the record?" "You did the right thing." "Hell, you handled it better than half the department would have. Just keep your head down until the noise dies." "I have been keeping my head down for years," I said. "Did not expect the world to notice when I took out the trash." He chuckled softly. "That is the irony of justice. It goes viral when it looks good on camera." After the call, I stepped outside. The street looked the same, but it was not. Neighbors smiled too long, waved too eagerly. Fear had turned into fascination. It was strange how fast respect can shift from genuine to performative. Marcus ran up, out of breath, holding his phone like a trophy. "Mr. Carter, dude, the video is at 3 million views now. You are everywhere." I forced a smile. "That is not necessarily a good thing." "But it is. People are calling you the HOA Avenger. Hashtag is trending." "Great," I muttered. Exactly what every federal agent wants, his name in a hashtag. He frowned, not getting it. "You do not like being famous?" "I like being left alone," I said gently. That afternoon, a letter appeared in my mailbox. No postage, just folded paper with my name scribbled in blue ink. Inside was a single line. "She got what she deserved. But so did you." No signature, just that. I read it twice, then burned it in the sink. The following day, Linda's lawyer held a press conference outside the county courthouse. Cameras everywhere. He claimed she had been misunderstood, that she acted in the community's best interest. He even hinted at a potential abuse of power on my part. Dana showed me the clip over dinner. "You going to respond?" "No. I do not fight lies with more noise. But she is painting you as the villain. Then let her. The truth does not need a PR team. Still, it gnawed at me. The same way it always did, when good intentions got twisted into narratives for clicks. 2 days later, the HOA sent another email to all residents. To restore trust, we are implementing new leadership policies. Community watch groups must register through local law enforcement. Unauthorized enforcement is strictly prohibited. It was bureaucratic, but it was progress. Order, this time, with transparency. That weekend, the street was quieter. No reporters, no patrols, just neighbors slowly reclaiming normal life. Kids rode their bikes again. Sprinklers hissed. A dog barked down the block. But peace did not erase tension. It just covered it like new paint on old wood. Some people still avoided me. I could feel it in their eyes, the unspoken question. What kind of man lives next door and hides an FBI badge? They would wave politely, but their smiles stopped short. I did not blame them. They had spent years under Linda's illusion of control. It was going to take time to learn what real freedom felt like. Late one night, as I took out the trash again, the same ritual that had started everything, I noticed Marcus sitting on the curb, scrolling through his phone. He looked up. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "Regret what?" "Exposing her? Making all this happen?" I thought about it for a while. No, but I regret that it had to happen like that. He nodded slowly. "You think people can change?" "People can learn," I said. "Change takes longer." The following morning, a letter arrived from the county prosecutor's office. Linda had been formally charged: impersonation, conspiracy, reckless endangerment, and harassment. Eddie took a plea deal. Sean got probation. Justice had paperwork now. But for all the closure it promised, I could not shake the feeling that something about it felt hollow. Not because they did not deserve punishment, but because no punishment rewrote the fear that had built this place. Dana noticed me staring out the window that night. "You are thinking about it again," she said. "Always," I admitted. "You ever wonder how many Lindas there are out there? People who confuse control with care?" She smiled sadly. "Too many. But maybe now there is one less." On Thursday, Marcus knocked on my door. "Hey, Mr. Carter, there's a guy from CNN outside. Says he just wants 5 minutes. Tell him I want 5 years." He grinned. That is a good line. "I will tweet it. Do not you dare." He laughed and jogged off, but I caught the flicker of admiration in his eyes. For all his teenage rebellion, he had learned something from that day. Not about me, but about standing up to power. That weekend, the community center hosted a rebuilding meeting. Harold, now officially the HOA president, invited me to attend. I almost did not go, but Dana insisted. You cannot fix something by standing on the sidelines. When I arrived, the mood was different from before, less formal, more human. Folding chairs in a circle, no podiums, no charts, people actually talking, listening. Harold opened with a deep breath. "We made mistakes," he said. "Big ones. But maybe those mistakes woke us up." He turned to me. "Reginald, I know you did not ask for it, but you reminded us what accountability looks like. Would you say a few words?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Look," I began, "I am not here as a federal agent. I am here as your neighbor." What happened on my driveway was not just about fake cops or HOA politics. It was about trust. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that communities are not built on fear, they are built on respect. The room was quiet. Faces that once looked away from me now met my eyes. "Rules do not make a neighborhood," I continued. "People do." And leadership is not about who gives orders, it is about who takes responsibility when things go wrong. When I finished, Harold stood. That is exactly what we needed to hear. For the first time since all this began, the applause did not feel awkward. It felt earned. After the meeting, a young mother approached me with her son. "My kid wants to be in law enforcement someday," she said. "Can you tell him what it really means?" I crouched down, meeting the boy's wide eyes. "It means you serve before you lead, and when you lead, you protect, not punish." He nodded solemnly, the kind of seriousness only a child can pull off. On the walk home, the night air felt cooler, calmer. The houses glowed softly under porch lights. For once, the neighborhood did not look divided, it looked alive. Dana met me on the porch. "How did it go?" Better than expected, I said. I think we finally learned how to breathe again. She smiled. Maybe that is what justice really is. Not revenge. Relief. I looked out at the quiet street, thinking how something so small, a trash bag, a driveway, a moment of defiance, had rippled this far. And for the first time, I realized this story was not about punishment, it was about restoration. The next morning, as sunlight spilled across the lawns, I saw something that made me stop cold. Linda's house. The windows, once sealed tight, were open. Curtains fluttered. A for sale sign leaned against the porch. She was gone. Part of me felt relief. Another part felt pity. For all her arrogance, she had been just another person who mistook power for purpose. By afternoon, the news trucks were gone, the reporters had moved on, and the neighborhood finally exhaled. But peace does not erase memory, it just teaches it how to rest. When I sat on my porch that night, the crickets humming in the dark, I caught my reflection in the window. Not the FBI hero people online had made me out to be, just a man trying to live quietly in a place that had forgotten what quiet meant. Somewhere down the block, Marcus's voice echoed as he filmed another live. "This is the neighborhood where it happened," he said to his followers. "Where truth won." I smiled faintly. Truth did not win that day. It survived. And sometimes, that is the best you can ask for. But I also knew this was not over. Not really. Because for every camera that turned off, a conversation had just begun. And that conversation, the one about fear, power, and integrity, was the one that mattered. The storm had passed, but the reckoning had just begun. By the time the first autumn breeze rolled through Plano, the neighborhood finally started to feel normal again, whatever that word meant now. The lawns were green, the fences straight, the HOA emails shorter and far less threatening. You could almost believe none of it had happened. Almost. But every time someone walked past my driveway, they would glance at it like a landmark, a silent reminder of where things changed. Kids whispered about it on their bikes. New residents asked about the FBI guy before they even unpacked. The story had become legend before the dust even settled. I did not mind. Legends fade. Lessons last. Saturday mornings were back to their usual rhythm. The low hum of lawnmowers, dogs barking, coffee brewing somewhere nearby. I stood on my porch, coffee mug in hand, watching the same sunrise that had once framed chaos. Only this time, it felt earned. Dana joined me, her robe wrapped tight against the chill. "Feels quieter," she said. "Quieter is good," I replied. She smiled. "You know, people still talk about you at the market. Half the town calls you Agent Carter. The other half calls you that poor guy who just wanted to take out the trash." I laughed softly. I prefer the second one. Across the street, Marcus was setting up his phone on a small tripod again. I groaned. "Please tell me he is not filming another live." "He is doing a project for school," Dana said. "They are studying community leadership. Apparently, you are his case study." I sighed. "Great. I am a moral of the story now." She touched my arm. "You earned it." That afternoon, the HOA held its first official Community Renewal Day. Barbecue grills, picnic tables, kids with face paint, music playing from portable speakers. The kind of day Linda used to cancel because the noise would disturb the harmony. When I arrived, people waved. Not awkwardly, not out of obligation, just genuine warmth. A few clapped. One older man raised his cup. To the man who reminded us what rules are really for, I shook my head. Rules are tools, not weapons. The new HOA president, Harold, took the mic halfway through the event. "Before we close today," he said, "there is someone we need to thank." I groaned quietly, but he waved me up anyway. The crowd applauded as I walked to the small stage. "Look," I began, "I did not do anything special. I did not save the world. I just refused to be bullied on my own driveway." A chuckle rippled through the audience. "But maybe," I added, "that is where change starts, not in big speeches or protests. Just one person saying, 'Enough.'" The crowd quieted. "Real authority does not need fear to stand tall," I said. "It needs truth. It needs accountability. And It needs community. I could see heads nodding. People who had been silent during Linda's reign now stood with confidence. It was not about me, it was about them remembering what belonging felt like. Afterward, Marcus caught up to me with his phone already recording. "Can I get one line for the video, Mr. Carter?" "One line?" I smiled. "All right. How about this? Power means nothing without purpose." He grinned. "Perfect." That night, the video hit 2 million views again, but this time, it was not chaos trending, it was clarity. Over the next few weeks, life found a new balance. Eddie was sentenced to community service, ironic, but fitting. Sean started volunteering at a youth center. Linda never came back. Her house sold quietly to a young couple who planted flowers along the walkway. I noticed that one afternoon while mowing my lawn, and it hit me how simple peace could look when no one tried to control it. Still, sometimes I would lie awake and replay that day in my head, the shouts, the cuffs, the moment I saw fear turn into courage. It was not the danger I remembered most. It was the silence that followed, the silence of people realizing they did not have to be afraid anymore. One Sunday, Dana and I attended church for the first time in months. The pastor spoke about humility, about how authority without compassion becomes cruelty. I listened quietly, feeling every word land heavier than the one before. After the service, he stopped me at the door. "You have been teaching that sermon better than I ever could," he said with a wink. I smiled. Just living it. Weeks turned into months. The story still floated around the internet, resurfacing in discussions about neighborhood power abuse and everyday heroism. I did not engage. The world could debate. I just lived. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. Not anonymous this time. Typed. Professional. Stamped from the Department of Justice. Commendation notice. Special Agent Reginald Carter. For exemplary conduct, restraint, and representation of federal integrity during an off-duty incident in Plano, TX. I read it once, then twice. I folded it neatly and tucked it away in the drawer. Dana asked why I did not frame it. "Because the people who mattered already saw it happen," I said. A week later, Marcus stopped by again, older somehow, more thoughtful. "I am leaving for college soon," he said. "Journalism major. Figured someone has got to keep people honest." "Good choice," I told him. "Just remember, truth is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers." He smiled. "I learned that here." He looked back at my driveway before walking away. "Funny how one place can change everything." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Funny." That night, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, I sat on my porch again, the air cool and still. The street lamps flickered on one by one. The sound of children playing echoed faintly down the block. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace, not the kind that hides from conflict, but the kind that survives it. I thought about Linda, about Eddie, about Sean, about how power corrupts quietly, like rot under paint, and how truth, when it finally breaks through, blinds everyone for a while before they adjust to the light. I took a deep breath and whispered into the dusk. The truth always comes to light. It was not defiance anymore. It was gratitude. Because the real victory was not the arrest, the headlines, or the millions of views. It was the shift, the invisible one inside people's hearts when they realized fear was not law. And if you ask me, that is the kind of justice worth fighting for. So if you are hearing this story, maybe from your couch or your car or your own quiet neighborhood, remember this: power built on fear collapses. But respect, the kind earned through honesty and accountability, lasts. Look around your community. Ask yourself, are you keeping peace or just keeping control? Because one day, when the storm comes to your driveway, the difference might be everything. And when it does, stand tall, speak calm, be the truth that does not flinch. Because real authority does not shout, it simply stands. If this story made you think about leadership, justice, or what community really means, make sure to subscribe for more true stories that remind us sometimes the bravest act is not fighting back. It is standing firm when the world expects you to stay silent.